Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic, the podcast where we talk about technology, innovation, artificial intelligence, spatial computing, the future, and everything in between. I'm your host, Kathy Hackle. Happy to be back this week, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lee Keebler. Lee, how you doing? Did you miss me?
Yes, of course I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. Adam is a longtime friend of mine. Any chance that I can talk with him for an hour, I will absolutely jump at the chance. You know Adam as well as I do. He's just such a great person. But I'm thrilled to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much to Adam for, stepping in and helping co-host the episode while I was attempting to get to Cannes. I did not make it. Cannes became cannot for me. It was,
okay, because we said that's where you
Yeah. People were like, I hear you're at Cannes. I'm like, yeah, it didn't quite happen that way. But yeah, I'll just tell folks, travel mishap after travel mishap. I mean, yeah, flight cancellation. Yeah.
And more of it to come. You're heading out again this week. So hopefully this is better.
Yes. Yeah. And my flight's canceled again today, but it's a normal cancel. No, it's not canceled. It's delayed. Sorry. My flight today to San Francisco is delayed, not canceled. But I did have an issue showing up at the airport and they're like, no, your flight's canceled. And I was like, no one said anything. And of course, me and a whole bunch of people behind me, the same thing happened to them. So
sure, it
was definitely on the airline. But anyway, I was only going to be there for 36 hours. And then I had to turn back because I'm flying to the West Coast today. So I was like, I just can't make it.
That's a lot.
Can't make it happen. So I'll be at the French Riviera next year for sure. For sure. But yeah, lots of stuff happening over there. Adweek had a really strong presence. The Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway recorded their podcast, the Pivot podcast, which I'm a big fan of there at the Adweek Villa. So yeah, I mean, lots of, what I've noticed though with Cannes and Cannes Lions, Festival of Creativity, is I'm seeing more and more tech people, more creators, not just the advertising marketing folks, but I'm seeing a lot more folks from different industries start to go to Cannes Lions. So it's only going to become more relevant and more important to have a presence there. So yeah, maybe you and I will make it next year. We'll see.
I would love to go. That sounds like a great time. I'm there. I went to a conference that was unlike anything that I've been to before this weekend. Mm-hmm. So for those just learning, I live in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon, and we are outdoorsy camp people. That's just what people do up here. And we went to a conference about camper vans, which you would not think would fit into this podcast whatsoever. The technology I saw at this conference was mind-blowing. People do not realize the big trend has been,
Tell me more. I want to hear about this.
I mean, everything that you think about in tech being crammed into a not tiny, they're getting bigger, but the days of the RV is the big bumbling, bus that's going down has really done. And people have started converting over to these basically these vans, like the same vans you would see like an Amazon truck delivery van, that type of van.
Oh, yeah.
Or like what the USPS or the Postal Service is using, right? Not the big vans. They're basically smaller little conversion vans. And they have the technology with solar and the technology that we have now with battery and lithium like power and what we've been able to do with satellite internet. What I'm seeing in some of like, everyone knows someone who's like tried to do like that van life like right at the beginning of COVID when we were all trying to like escape. And it was all about propane and just like getting it down.
Yeah.
Holy cow, we've come so far in 5 years that I'm really looking at our van. I'm like, I think I can build a podcast studio in it. Like, I think we could, like, there's so much we can do that has been mobilized now. And it comes down to even things like there's the fact that you can take an Apple device and plug it into any USB port and it gets power means that now I can actually convert a van to a full computerized system with Apple OS with not a whole lot of power consumption. Throw some solar panels on the roof. And this is getting down into the geek, but going to this conference and seeing what people were doing, the luxury that I saw.
That I like.
Was absolutely on par with things that you would see in like magazines like Vogue. It was stunning. So yeah, that's what I did this weekend. It was a completely different approach to technology, approach to how people are leveraging AI and not just like planning their trips, but like making sure that where they're going has the right accessibilities and stuff like that. I see a whole new boom coming for like people traveling via ground. It's just getting cheaper and cheaper to do it. And with the daily luxuries that we're really used to. So it was cool. It was very cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't remember who it is right now, but I know there's someone on the West Coast in San Francisco, in the Bay Area specifically. I can't remember who it is right now. It's one of my colleagues in tech, but his office is in his Airstream.
Yeah.
Which is parked outside. Yeah. So his whole office is set up there. Like, I can't remember who it was, but yeah, like there are people doing that.
I saw Airstream did a conversion van, right? They put it into one of these Mercedes Sprinter vans so that they converted, which everyone's used to the Airstream, which looks like a silver Twinkie, right? Like it's that design.
Really pretty. Yeah.
It's very, very pretty. But they did a Sprinter van that was there and I walked through it and it was all electrical, which meant that it didn't have a generator, didn't take extra gas or anything like that. It had air conditioning. It had the inductive stoves that you see in like modern houses now where you put the pot on it immediately. Holy cow. Like it is a house in a van. It was so comfortable. It was amazing.
I love that. I mean, for me, as long as someone else is driving, I'm down.
Yeah.
I personally hate driving. I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, I'm a good driver, don't get me wrong, but I just get really anxious. So I don't like driving, but someone else is driving. I'm down for, the type of road trip if you're comfortable.
Coming out of the music industry, I spent many a summer, many a season.
Oh, you've been in many a bus. Yeah, tour buses.
Yeah, I did the luxury buses with artists and their bands and stuff like that. And I never thought we'd see that type of luxury that compact. Those buses are millions of dollars and they cost a fortune to drive. Now seeing the same comfort put into like a Dodge van is just shocking.
That's hilarious. So anyway, let's get into the news because I do think we have a lot to talk about and very little time because I have to head to the airport as per, as I usually am, always on an airplane.
As usual.
As usual. I'm the one always on an airplane. But yeah, I want to start with Mr. Beast. I mean, if you've listened to our show, I'm a big fan. I keep tabs on what might be happening with Mr. Beast. I mean, huge name, obviously. So there's news that he might be launching a beverage pretty soon. Not
just a beverage, but also going into a mobile game.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Lee, you stole my thunder. He's going to launch a beverage and a mobile game. So I absolutely love this news, both from the fact that Prime as a beverage launched, by KSI and Logan Paul.
Yeah, Paul Logan, yeah.
Yeah, one of them. It has, just took over everything. It was guerrilla marketing. It was crazy. People were going insane for Prime. Now you can get it everywhere. It's like a drink that most of the kids in my kids' school drink, even though it's loaded with caffeine. But the fact that he's launching into that space right for, there's so much opportunity there, obviously. And then the mobile game. I mean, brilliant move for him to go into mobile gaming. His empire is just expanding from the partnership with Amazon to Beverage's chocolates. I mean, once again, like those Feastable chocolates are huge in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So mobile game, very smart for him to do that. He's done things inside, I believe, Fortnite, and he's gone into other platforms, but for him to own his own mobile game and what he can bring to it, I think it's extremely powerful.
It is. And how this information leaked was probably the most interesting. So the way it came out was in a lawsuit. Basically, there's a legal battle from Mr. Beast to Virtual Dining Concepts, who was his partner when he released Mr. Beast Burger, which was a partnership for a ghost kitchen venture.
Did you ever try them? Did you ever try the burgers? We ordered them here once.
They never made it up to the Pacific Northwest,
okay,
I guess.
Okay.
And so I guess the Mr. Beast Burger issue was he was actually unhappy with how they quickly expanded and it started cutting into the quality, which normally you wouldn't see like a YouTuber give two rips about. So there is something honest and endearing about this of like him saying, no, this is actually affecting my brand. This needs to actually be better and not just be a cash grab. We want quality.
We didn't like it.
You didn't?
No, we ordered only once. We didn't like it. We were like, what? So I think I do believe that the quality of the burger was not there.
So in that legal battle against Virtual Dining Concepts, that's when this new information about the video game, mobile game, and this drink partnership also came out. So we'll see what it means. There is some I think the mobile game part makes sense, totally. But there is some kind of raised eyebrows when it comes to the drink approach, because as we saw Prime from Paul Logan and KSI do very well in its beginning, that was a meteoric rise with a absolute collapse of a fall. And so we'll see. It depends on what the drink is. I think that collapse goes back to what you had mentioned with it not being actually a healthy drink. The mistake that was made was Logan Paul and KSI came out and said this was like a workout drink because they're both known in like the fighting boxing arena. And it just definitely is not something that I think should be consumable by humans. We'll see. I mean, just you can just look at the ingredients. I think that was a big part of the drop, was like a lot of hype and then there was a fall.
Yeah.
But if Mr. Beast's approach to what he did and what this whole legal thing with his ghost kitchen partners for Mr. Beast Burgers was about, like, hey, we need better quality, maybe we will actually get a halfway decent drink out of this. We'll see. Time will tell.
We'll have to see. But definitely, I mean, I do think he puts a lot of thinking into everything he puts out there in the world.
Yeah.
Quality-wise. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a better drink than Prime. I don't buy it for my kids. Every once in a while they'll ask for it and I'll get them a bottle. But like, it's loaded with caffeine. It's just like, wow, this is like crazy.
I've never tried it. I just can't get behind the whole brand. Like the whole idea of it is just like a thing that I'm just like, no. I will say this, weird Logan Paul news, and I don't like talking about Logan Paul. This caught me off guard. So as people know, I follow a lot of video game history. And one of those areas that I follow, and part of this is because I live in Portland, and Portland is home. Portland hosts the Tetris World Championships every year. It's a weird thing we do. It's televised and it's quite amazing. But Logan Paul actually ended up competing with the Tetris Championships last month. He showed up and went head to head. Yeah. I think I have to go back. There's been no like articles about this, but I literally watched it happen live, where he was competing against one of the top, like the world championship Tetris player who's
he good at it. Is Logan Paul good at Tetris? Like, is this is a revelation then, I guess.
So yeah, that was what caught me off guard. So yes, he's not world championship good. Let me be clear. World championship players for Tetris they have broken the game, but he actually held his own. And I need to go back and figure out what was going on here, because they were playing a modified Game Boy version, which I believe was in sponsorship with RetroMod, which was the Palmer Luckey Game Boy that is trying to come out soon. It looked like, and that was what was weird, is there's no article on this, so I'm still digging into it. So it looked like it was the Palmer Luck, like it was kind of like sponsored by the Palmer Luckey's Game Boy Retro Art handheld that he's putting out, but they were playing on this version of Game Boy, and it was an actual like competition. And I'm not going to lie, I might not be a Logan Paul fan, but holy cow, he can play some Tetris. He was good. He held his own. Wow. He's better at Tetris than I am. That is a painful sentence to say, but I'm willing to say it. So yeah, weird thing that popped up with.
Weird side story there. Okay.
Yeah, Palmer Luckey, Logan Paul, Tetris. Just strange. It was a weird week.
Talking about Palmer Luckey, I do want to mention that because we mentioned news about his hardware and the things he's working on last week at AWE in Long Beach. He was on stage and he did talk about the new hardware that he's creating for the defense industry, which makes total sense because he's very much connected to the defense industry through Anduril Industries, which he runs. And then I think he definitely saw the opportunity, especially with the Microsoft HoloLens and the big contract. Was like a $2 billion contract with the Army, and it not going as well necessarily as people would have wanted. Actually, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast, I don't live too far away from Fort Belvoir, and that's where kind of all the HoloLens defense stuff is. Not everything's done there, but a lot of it is tested there.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to kind of see that he's going for the defense industry and for this type of hardware for defense, which once again, once you have the government as a client, they're big clients, right? It takes a long time to actually get them as a client. It's living in DC, you understand the process and the pain of getting there. But once you have it, it's interesting. So I think he's aiming for the right market in that sense, at least for now, as consumer hasn't really, taken off as much.
Well, the one thing that Palmer Luckey's always done is he's been able to look at what hardware can be and where it is now and piece together the most simplified version that is stable, right? Like that is what made Oculus. And people I think quickly forgot how fast that adapted, but the original Oculus tethered directly to your computer. It did not have any form of 6 degrees of freedom. You just could look around, but it worked. And it was the very first version that a consumer could set up and sit at a desk and utilize VR to the extent that the technology would allow at the time. And so I think that's a big part of what he does very well, is he doesn't cram a lot of technology into something that may overheat or cannot have the proper battery lifespan that you'd suggest, or have a limited point of view that renders it, kind of unusable by many people. And these were all things that were plaguing the HoloLens. And so I can see where he could step up and say, well, if we strip a lot of this back, what it can do and what it can do well would be X, Y, and Z. Now, to be fair, during this AWE panel, he did not show the hardware. We didn't go into what the hardware was. So this is all still speculative based on just his announcement. Honestly, I was shocked he was legally allowed to talk about it, but there he was on the stage.
Oh, I don't think you can. I think he marches at the beat of his own drum. So he's going to say whatever he wants to say. That's kind of how I see him, a free spirit of sorts. But yeah, so I do want to move, Lee, into more news. I think we're going to talk, there's so much happening with Apple. So I want to talk about something that came out a couple of days ago. Wall Street Journal, I think, is the one that reported about Meta and Apple starting to have conversations about an AI partnership. This is huge news in some way because Meta and Apple don't necessarily get along. There's been things happen. There's things being said by Mark Zuckerberg, and there's things being said by Tim Cook, and some rivalry there. But from a business perspective, I think it's good for them to have this conversation, especially with Apple looking to partner with an OpenAI. They said, during the keynote that they're going to support other models. So I strategically taken a step back from a business perspective and thinking strategy. I think it's really smart for them to sit down at the table and have this conversation about a potential AI partnership. So good on them.
What billionaires say and what billionaires do are different things. So it's fun to watch them kind of slap box on social media back and forth, but at the end of the day, this really, I don't find it surprising. What I would be more surprised if it went the other direction. Meta has a history of being first on Apple and then second on Android when you look at Facebook and Instagram, WhatsApp, and these other applications. They're not adverse to being on Apple products. They have to be on a much larger. They have to be.
They have to be.
Even the Oculus app is on the Apple platform when you want to use your headset. So there's really not a huge surprise in that aspect. If they want their AI to branch beyond like the VR headsets that they create and be a larger overall encompassing function, then yeah, I see that as absolutely necessary. And Apple has always wanted people to build for their ecosystem, not the other way around. Now, I'm pretty sure the world would catch on fire if all of a sudden the Apple announced that iMessage was going to be on Meta devices. The road doesn't go that direction.
No.
Right?
This
Apple
is a completely different partnership.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like tools come to Apple. Apple doesn't send their tools outward ever. So, that I think other than Xcode, I've never seen an Apple owned piece of software not be on anything other than an iOS device. Yeah. The road doesn't go that direction. So for them wanting to get their AI into Meta, it may also, and this is speculative, so let's be clear about this. This may also be a patch for what we've read, and this kind of goes to the next article, as Apple is being forced to not send their current AI stack to the EU. So there's too many EU regulations. Not yet, right. There's too many EU regulations that have kept things like ChatGPT, things like Apple AI from going towards their EU products, but that's a massive market that they can't afford to lose. So if Meta has already maybe solved some of those problems, there might be a solution within that might be part of it. Again, this is me reading tea leaves. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a big problem if Apple just announced their big AI and their partnership with ChatGPT, but you've got the entire European market that has better regulation than we do in the US saying, not yet. That could be problematic.
Yeah. And so I definitely think I agree with you. To speaking to the European side, I mean, it makes sense for them to delay, especially because of all the regulation and things that are changing, obviously. It just makes me feel like maybe the US, we're always the guinea pigs. Right?
Especially with technology.
We're always the guinea pigs here. So, because there's a lack of regulation, right? There's a lot of talk and executive orders and things being signed, but there's nothing really happening when it comes to regulating AI and data and the things that are happening there. So,
frustratingly, you're right.
Frustratingly so. I mean, yeah. And I would say about that partnership, it was a little surprising to me, to be honest, reading it. I think for a lot of people, probably it was surprising as well. But yeah, I mean, like you said, what billionaires say and do is completely different. I mean, we never got the cage match, right, between Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and we're never going to get it. Not that I wanted to see that. Trust me, that was not.
Oh, I would have had front row tickets for that.
Oh, God,
I would have.
No. At least Mark is actually into mixed martial arts. So
that's why I wanted to go.
As a mother of a mixed martial artist, my son who does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, yeah, I would rather see people that actually know the discipline. But anyway, yes, I do think it is a very important statement. I mean, what would be shocking would be a headline that would say something like Epic and Apple partner on blah, blah, blah. Like that would be shocking.
Right. And there's a part of me that thinks we'll see.
What happened? Who knows, right?
I think we'll see that one day. I think we will.
Because of Disney?
No.
Oh.
Because I think, I'm doing a lot of speculation here. I think Apple is coming to terms with some like Unity partnership problems. I don't know. I mean, just like the fact that they've not mentioned Unity since the launch or since the announcement of the Apple Vision Pro, not the launch, but the announcement was like, hey, we're partnering with Unity and there's going to be this SDK. There just seems to be some hurdles in development when it comes to Unity and the Apple Vision Pro. And Unity as a company has had some major shakeups in the last year and a half that they're having to come to terms with internally. That has nothing to do with Apple. They've changed a lot of their design, not their design, a lot of their like platform design when it comes to structuring tiers of service for developers. It has given way to bring in new engines that at one point you would just use Unity because it was there, and now it's not as enticing as a developer. So we're seeing game engines like Godot do an amazing well. Godot has had one of their biggest years ever, and a lot of that has to do with some of the decisions that Unity's made as a company. In doing so, that leaves a massive gap for not only engines like Godot, but engines like Lumberyard, which was owned by Amazon.
Oh my gosh, I haven't thought about Lumberyard in years, maybe since I was at Amazon. Yeah.
And Lumberyard is starting to come back into the conversation. And then, of course, Epic owning their game engine with the Unreal Engine. Those are just things that are necessary to propel the hardware like the Apple Vision Pro. So while they definitely have their beef and they've had their arguments, again, the public arguments of billionaires usually give way to when partnerships will make everybody money. And so I just think we will see that one day. And maybe Disney has something to do with it, but I think it has more to do with the engine.
With the engine. I mean, maybe because of the engine, I do see like they're, especially with Apple and Disney being so close together when it comes to the things that they're doing with, Disney Plus and content. I don't know. I would have seen it more from the perspective of the Apple relationship, between all of them. But you do make sense when it comes to the engines and everything. So.
Well, what would Disney have to offer Apple, right? Like Disney Plus is not doing as well as Apple TV, at least externally to the viewer base, right? So Disney Plus is costing Disney a fortune.
What Disney has is content, right?
Apple has content. It's a different type of content.
Apple has content and it creates its own content and it's great, but it's not Disney IP. I mean, Ted Lasso is great. I love Ted Lasso, but it's not Mickey Mouse.
It's not Disney IP, but Disney Plus isn't exactly doing well. We've seen it in their cost ratios. It's been a big part of their company stock problems that they've had. Like, I think they can get it together, but
they will, I'm sure. I'm sure they will. So
there was a point where Disney content was on Netflix, and maybe they need to go back to that strategy as opposed to hosting their own streaming service.
I did see some Disney movie on, I can't remember which, it's on Hulu, of course, because they have a partnership, but
right.
I can't remember what it was. It's something that I was completely, I was like, how is this on Netflix? Or how is this on, I can't remember what it was. I'm going to go back to ask my son what it was. Anyway, let's move on to some other things. Before we get into some Apple Vision Pro news and a few things, I do want to talk about a link you sent me to a podcast from Wired.
Yes.
Where they talked about Apple looking at AI as a tool. No, as hold on.
As a feature.
As a tool and not a product. As a feature and not a product. And that's something that you have said that I believe as well. It is a feature, not a product. I mean, AI is eventually going to be infused into everything, right? So it's not a product, it's a feature, right? So tell folks a little bit about that episode and why you think it was so relevant to listen to the episode.
Well, it was a breakdown of where a lot of hardware has gone awry, right? We've seen a lot of people try to take this concept of AI, whether it's rehousing ChatGPT into a pen or trying to cram it into like this microphone device. We're seeing it put into a lot of different things when at the end of the day, it just kind of like it functions on your phone so you can use it here. We've always looked at, and this goes for me as well, and we've done it on this podcast whenever we talk about AI or ChatGPT or something like this, we always look at it as AI is in a box. That it lives inside of this app and you access it either through your web browser or through the ChatGPT app or Gemini or Bard or whatever it was. It had a name, it had a place where that AI lived, and you went and you interacted with it and you did the thing you wanted to do. What Apple has done with their approach to AI, as they're calling Apple Intelligence, which I'm just still reeling over, they're usurping the entire acronym. They've embedded it. They wove it as a feature throughout all of their applications. Oh, if you want it to be a text editor, if you want it to help you with your writing, we're going to weave that into your email. We're going to weave that into your Pages app. We're going to weave that into where you create documents. If you want to do image generation, we're going to take that part of it and weave it into your presentation applications and images and photos and iMessage and things like that. So they took what AI is doing, the chunks that it does well, and said, well, this belongs over here, not all in just one block of an app. And that is such a different approach. In saying it out loud, it's like, well, of course, that's just like this duh moment. But really, no one had thought of it to this extent. We've always just put AI in a box and it does this, it does this, it does this, but you all function with it in the same little window. And Apple has turned it into feature sets as opposed to a singular product. It's not just Siri. It boosts Siri. Siri's now better, but it's also going to boost Apple Maps. It's also going to boost Pages. It's also going to boost your email. And that approach is so uniquely different that it does, and I'm not always an Apple fan, but it does show what they do well, is they don't look at it and say, how do I take this box and sell you a box? They say, what is in this box and how do I make it sell all of the other boxes?
All of the other boxes. That's brilliant. But I do think it's because it is the approach that they're taking are large action models.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day are a lot more useful than large language models are great. But if you don't put things together and figure out how does this coordinate, like how do you connect all of these together and create these large action models, then it's not as useful, right?
It's basically the mesh that should tie all of your apps together. Mm-hmm. And up until today, we've not had that mesh. You jump between apps to do different things. They did not necessarily coordinate with each other. Siri kind of tried to do it, but at the end of the day, beyond copy and paste, there really wasn't a whole lot of like app jump betweens. This really does mesh them all together and create a better app ecosystem. Not economically, but like where they live together, work together, supposedly in harmony, and knows what each other is doing. And that's just a completely different approach to computing, not just mobile computing, but computing in general. We have always kind of been subjugated to these apps do a singular thing and very rarely coordinate.
It's that mesh that is going to connect all the apps and create perspective, memory, context, right? To make them all, it all starts to work together and blend together, right? Because that truly becomes useful. Then it becomes truly useful, right? So yeah, we'll have to see. But we'll try to include a link to that episode from the Wired podcast.
It was brilliant. I was a little upset that I hadn't thought about putting it in the words so succinctly. Like, that's how I've been feeling. Even when you and I talked about after the WWDC, we were like, that was kind of, I was expecting more fanfare. I think we all were expecting fanfare of Apple AI. It does everything, as opposed to Apple AI. If we do it right, you won't even notice it's there. Mm-hmm. But that is the right approach. That's absolutely it.
That's something I'm thinking about is eventually are we going to be using the word AI at all? Or is it just going to be, I mean, we probably will, but like it's just going to be infused into everything.
I don't think we will. I really don't. I don't think that it's a term that will, I think, be retired once it's done correctly, and Apple's on the right path here. And again, I'm an Android user with the Apple desktop.
Do you miss Apple now that you're on?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Okay, I was about to ask you, do you miss the Apple ecosystem?
I really don't, but I love my Mac Mini. That's my desktop. That's my studio computer. I have a Mac laptop. I think they make great computers for the things that I do. They will not be my gaming PC, but for my phone, I prefer my Pixel for now. We'll see what this does. This will take a couple of generations, probably 2 generations before I look back at iPhone and take another look. But I've been really happy switching back to my Pixel. I've not missed it. I've gotten a couple of people who get upset about the green bubble text messages. Whatever. That's just kind of what they say. I guess if you don't like green bubble text messages, we can use WhatsApp. But I've been really impressed actually with the early adoption of Gemini into the Pixel phones, which is Apple's AI solution as well. It doesn't mesh all of the apps together, but it does a really good job of being instantly there so that I have access to an AI without having to necessarily open up another app. That's been nice. It's been good.
So before we go on break, I do want to mention something because you mentioned gaming, and Apple's definitely pushing into gaming. They're not there yet, right? I think we can all agree that it's not the go-to.
Yeah, they want to make that arcade, Apple Arcade, happen so bad, and it's just kind of like, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's just...
my kids actually play Apple Arcade, Sneaky Sasquatch, and a whole bunch of games. Yeah, it's like a thing in my house, but it's because that's what they have access to, right?
Mm-hmm,
I mean, they are on, my older ones are on console and other stuff, but the Apple App Store is about to receive its first game streaming app this month on June 27th.
Oh, interesting.
Platform and Stream Arcade.
Stream games
So I want to see how this rolls out. I want to see how this rolls out and how it goes.
I'll tell you, stream games are hard. Like live streaming games that you play, they rely on so many things that I think just aren't there yet. And we've seen this. Nintendo has struggled to get live, like what's called...
Even Amazon, right? Luna? What was it called?
Yeah, what's called cloud gaming. It just doesn't work that well because it relies on you having good internet access and your hardware. And if the clouds are aligned correctly, I mean, ping is a big problem when it comes to cloud gaming, and you don't have control over what server you're closest to. So I'm just not a fan of cloud gaming. Not yet. We're just not there. And I'm kind of in that realm of, if Nintendo can't figure it out, what are you doing? Cloud gaming's tough. It's tough.
Do we need cloud gaming to truly have gaming in the physical world when we have spatial computing?
No, but it's because we are not investing. This is my opinion.
Okay.
This is not speculation. This is my honest to God opinion. We don't need cloud gaming if we would be willing to start investing more into decentralized servers that can that can actually serve assets faster and remotely. If it is very much a hybrid approach, right? It's kind of like EV cars. Like when we first wanted electric vehicles, batteries weren't good enough, so Toyota created the Prius, and it's still a competitor because there's something to be said for combining a combustion engine with, big batteries. I honestly look at gaming very similarly. It's like cloud gaming is a great idea, but it's not fully there. If we can decentralize the server so they can feed assets and you can keep them locally but then dump them, and we kind of hybrid the stuff together and put it all into like a cache file, and I'm getting really techie here, but that is like a viable solution. If people go and research, and this sounds like it's made up, but people look into early solutions like the IPFS network, the interplanetary file system, it's basically a decentralized like file server, and it works really well, just doesn't have a massive adoption. And I'm not necessarily saying that's the solution.
Doesn't have a massive adoption. And then if you look at the cloud providers, what's in it for them if you move into that decentralized model, right? So from that business perspective...
But with Apple getting into cloud computing themselves in this last WWDC, maybe they'll figure some things out. They are smart in how they regulate their data, sometimes even annoyingly so, when you realize that it accidentally deleted an app but left the icon on your iPhone because you needed more space. I get why they do it, but my God, that's annoying when it happens. And you're like, I needed the Lyft app, but I haven't used it for a month, so Apple deleted it. So you click it and it's like, I have to re-download. That's just...
I have to re-download. Yeah. No.
I get why they do it. It's smart, but we'll see.
All right. So we're going to go on break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about more gaming news, some Apple Vision Pro news. Our guest after the break is going to be Edward Saatchi from Showrunner, the Netflix of AI, a company that is making waves. A lot of people talking about them and already joining their beta list. So let's go on break.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But but real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
All right, everyone. Today's guest is Edward Saatchi, who I've known for a very long time from the tech industry. He's doing really amazing things right now. Edward, welcome to the pod.
Yeah, lovely to be on. Thank you.
Amazing. So, you and I have known each other for a while from the, tech industry, but there might be some folks that know about you, or some folks that might not know. But just introduce yourself so our listeners know who you are.
Yeah. So I am, prior to Fable, co-founded Oculus Story Studio to make virtual reality experiences and applications, and we built several primetime Emmy-winning virtual reality experiences, and Quill, which allowed people to make virtual reality comics. And our last work was Wolves on the Walls, which starred Lucy as an interactive character. And that was sort of 2017, 2018. And seeing how people reacted to Lucy is what made me really start to obsess about AI and making characters that were fully believable. And that carries through now to Showrunner, where, we're trying to build interactive AI content and AI characters that are believable and interesting to watch, and to put you in charge too, so that you're sort of creating at the intersection of TV and games, and experiencing. We call it a Netflix of AI, and what we mean by that isn't just passively watching tons of AI stuff. It's deeply interactive and social, because you can upload yourself to be in the shows. You can upload your friends and make episodes and scenes and TV shows that you've always dreamed of making.
Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit to Lucy and how she led you to what you're doing with Showrunner. So I got to experience her. I mean, this was like a couple years back. You were really early. I think you were so early to the game. You were even doing, I remember, the Virtual Being Summit. There was a lot of work being done in virtual beings. And Lucy was one of those kind of like virtual beings that a lot of people were talking about. What kind of when you were working on Lucy, how did you know that this part was coming? Like, a little bit kind of went into your brain, because you were really ahead of the game.
Yeah, I think on a practical level, so we created Lucy as an AI with GPT-1 back in 2018, 2019, and we would tell anyone who would listen that AI was the next great art form, which sounded weird back then, 2018, to say that.
Yeah.
But I still believe it, and I think what led us away from a one-to-one chatbot is that we felt that you needed to have a whole society of characters. You can't just have Ross without Rachel, Monica, Chandler, without that kind of, even Gunther. All of these things that create the context in which Ross can be Ross, and the difference. So that's why we started to think about societies of AIs and about TV shows and sitcoms of their life. And the problem that we identified, 6 years ago with GPT-1 is still there, which is, if you talk to Lucy back in 2018 as an AI chatbot, she wouldn't really have any ground truth of what she had been doing that day. What she'd been doing yesterday, or what she planned to do tomorrow. And we felt that made her a very non-human. That's not what humans are like. So we wanted to really make characters that were real. And if you're a real person, then you got better stuff to do than just talk to someone on a chatbot. What's funny is that we've now made chatbots so effective that at Smalltalk, that they go all the way past passing the Turing test to failing the Turing test. Because the best way to pass the Turing test is to stop talking, because you got better stuff to do. No human is going to talk to you for 300 hours straight. They need to sleep. They have other things to do. So the fact that these chatbots are just always there in and of itself denies the experience of talking to a real person. And that's what we want. We want the characters to feel completely real.
And I love what you're mentioning, that you're at the intersection of all these technologies, right? Because that's what I'm seeing. It's this convergence of all these technologies coming together. And even when you talk about creating, complex stories, complex narratives, right? For these characters, a multitude of characters. I feel like that's an exercise in world building that has followed you from your XR days.
Yeah. And you can sort of, in today's terms, you could think about something at the intersection of character AI and Pika, right? Which is a non-intuitive connection. But when you look at character AI, a huge number of the top characters that people talk to are TV show characters, anime characters or beyond. And obviously with Pika, people are trying to immersively build these stories with characters that they're interested in. So, you're immersing the audience more and more into the life of the character. Now, that might mean that you're watching their life unfold. That might mean that you're chatting with them. That might mean that you're guiding them a little bit, or like giving them advice. All of these things, I think, kind of converge around Showrunner and this kind of Netflix of AI concept. And maybe even Joan is Awful, the Black Mirror episode, which is kind of the first thing I've ever seen that ties together the idea of a simulation and a showrunner, right? Because those ideas seem quite separate, but he wasn't like, this is just a Netflix that like makes TV stuff. He was like, this is a Netflix that needs a simulation to power it, of like what's going to happen to these characters. It's an idea that takes a minute to get your head around, but it makes a lot of sense. And in a way, it's what was happening in the Truman Show as well, right? It was genuinely a simulation that they had built that would then power this endless TV show.
And when you think about Showrunner, so give people a little bit of more of an understanding of what Showrunner is and what it can do, so they better understand what you mean by like the Netflix of AI.
So we want you to be able to be at home and describe the show that you'd like to watch, and then watch it. And I know it sounds very ambitious, but we've done it with South Park AI. You describe the kind of, the episode that you want to watch, you watch it. And I think everyone else that I see is working from one end, which is we're going to get all these little clips and like, we're going to get them all together and like, we're going to add this and this, and just like it's a lot of work. And we think you should start at the other end of like, how do you actually get prompt to episode with these characters who are, going to behave realistically and reasonably within a show context. So that's sort of the Netflix of AI, is that you're at home, you are describing what you'd like to watch. Maybe you've run out of episodes of a particular show, and it generates it for you. And if you're a little bit younger, because it's kind of funny to think that for me, the idea of just sitting in front of the TV was, that was the kind of bad, low attention span behavior. And now sitting in front of the TV is like this glorified, like, wow, it's incredible. The kids today, they can sit and watch a whole hour. So some people aren't interested in watching TV. We started to notice people in the alpha uploading themselves and making the sitcom of their lives. So imagine the sitcom of your high school, or maybe you've uploaded your parents and you're kind of making Married with Children, but with your parents. So you're kind of, you're making fun of each other. You're like going back and forth, and you're really telling the story of you and your friends' lives, maybe with some fictional characters. But, that idea of not just in the future, everyone will get 15 minutes of fame, but in the future, everyone gets a 7-season syndicated TV sitcom about themselves, or their AI double. So those are the kind of two things we see with Showrunner. Is one for the older folks who, like me, who want to watch a TV show, and for the younger folks who want to, make their own lives into a TV show, the kind of sitcom of you. So those are the two behaviors that we're seeing in the alpha so far, and we've got about a 70,000 person wait list. We've let some of those people in, and they're making both original shows and the stories of their own lives, the sitcom of their life.
Yeah, so you're obviously in alpha mode. You're going to go into beta at some point, and things are going really well. So I'm going to talk about alpha, but in a different way. Generation Alpha, which are like, I've got 3 kids. They're all Generation Alpha. They're world builders, right? They're creating games.
Yeah.
My son's a Roblox developer. I could
Totally.
see them.
So cool.
Yeah. I could see them really taking on this. And like, for example, one of my kids loves Wednesday, like the TV show. Like I could see them taking that.
Totally. So here's,
right.
So here's something that's kind of, I think an example of why the architecture that we're going with Showrunner is very suited to TV. So we all know what the layout of the Friends apartment, right? Chandler's over here, Joey's there. Here's the living room. Here's the corridor. Here's Monica and Rachel's. Downstairs, the Cafe Nervosa. A pure diffusion model approach doesn't know that, right? It has no ground truth to refer back to, such that when Chandler leaves a particular room, he's not going into a completely different living room every day. And, there's no corridor to in the upstairs. That's the chaos of, I think, the approach that we see with other people. And we're letting people actually create locations under which are several sets so that they can build out their own home, so that when the character leaves through that door, they always go to the correct next room. When they want to go and watch TV, they go downstairs. It actually understands the layout and the structure, and then expand that to your entire high school, and collaboratively you're making the show of high school, or expand that to Wednesday, or even something like The Wire, right? I mean, you can't make The Wire without the police station being kind of coherent and the same and logically laid out consistently, or without knowing, that the bottomless bottle of vodka is in McNulty's fridge, that he's going back to his apartment, and this little AI character is knocking it back to deal with the demons of, the dead bodies and all that. So yeah, we think to make TV, you have to, people talk about consistent characters and they mean the face doesn't go crazy, but it's more about a consistent world, right? And building that world, that it's logically, when you go through that door, it's not a different place on the other side every single time. So that's why we built it that way. So I love that you go straight to world building. That's just how we think of it too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's funny because you bring up a lot of examples. I was thinking I grew up watching 90210, right? The Peach Pit. It's looked a certain way. It was if it,
you would totally lose faith in a TV show if it was just changing constantly, right?
No.
It wouldn't, and you'd lose faith in the characters. You'd lose faith in everything. And some people in text to video do talk about world engines and simulations, but they're talking about physics, right? It's much more around I pour this, the AI should know that the water goes, but that's not the simulation of these characters' lives. That's not the sort of Joan is awful concept, which I think is much more resonant to TV. And that, another side of it, I think, when I see on Twitter, I'm sure maybe you have the same feeling as me. When I see on Twitter a short film made by someone in Pika and Runway, the reaction I'm being asked to give is, God, that influencer is amazing. What a complete genius that person is, right? I'm passively watching it and I'm supposed to say it's amazing, which I usually do because it often is amazing. But I want, when people see a scene from Showrunner, it should feel more the way that people feel when they see a video from Minecraft. In that everyone in the world sees that, and because it's Lego and all that, they're like, yeah, I can do that. Obviously, I can go and do that right now. It'll take me 2 seconds. And I don't feel that with any of these short films that I see. They're so well put together and detailed, and they're also kind of finished stories. Whereas with TV, you're I'll make I'll make the next episode of that. I'll continue that story, or I'll reverse that story. I'll add myself to it. It's more of a two-way thing where the creator isn't this monolithic genius who's kind of pushing out content which we consume, It's more a dialogue between like maybe the person who created the show and then everyone else who gets to make their own scenes and episodes and build out that world, add more characters to the show, like make it a more collaborative world building effort.
And I love that because I feel like even for some of us that have watched TV throughout our lives, right?
Yeah.
And there might have been shows that maybe just got one season for one reason or another, or two, and then you were so disappointed when they got canceled.
Totally.
Right? It can expand that. Like, I love that. I can bring back the things I love.
Totally. I love Star Trek: The Next Generation, for example. And, I'm not saying we're going to bring back Star Trek: The Next Generation, but that's an example of something where you could just have whole shows made in, the Ferengi planet and the Cardassian planet. And like, people can just go deep into that lore and build it out as a place. And that's what I hope eventually happens, is that these shows become, because they'll have thousands of episodes, they'll become as rich in our imaginations as Middle Earth, right? Like you need something that you need to have hundreds of hours of something to really believe in it. You need quality as well, definitely. But, there's something about that immersion of just being in a universe that I think is really powerful. And I don't get it with these like 3-minute trailer for a film that doesn't exist. Like you need, TV is so perfect for AI because it's highly repetitive. And so you could have tons and tons of episodes and go deeper and deeper.
And what has been the reception? Obviously the South Park episode went viral. Like, what has been so far? You're in alpha. There's been a lot of media and coverage around what you're doing. What has been the reception?
Yeah, I mean, about 70 million people saw the South Park AI, and then when we opened up the alpha recently, the wait list went up to almost 75,000 people, and so it's been terrific, and it's been cool to see these two distinct kinds of people that are these original storytellers who never got. We have one who was a user making some Exit Valley episodes, which is a show that we sort of seeded the platform with. And then they have a great show that we're now going to turn into a showrunner show. And a showrunner show doesn't mean like, hey, we're going to help you make your show and then it's done. A showrunner show is something that's in dialogue with the users. So like you're setting the Lego blocks, and now the users can take those and maybe they make a whole sub show with that character because they were really interested in that character. Like you're kind of, again, a bit like what we were doing in virtual reality, where we were saying to the writer director, like, you're going to lose some control. So that's one. And then we've been really surprised by these people uploading themselves and telling their own lives and stories. And I'm really excited about that, because I think that idea of the sitcom of one's life has a very cool Sims-like element that I think is a string that we want to pull on over time. Like somebody really carefully, like building their home, making that scene where they're having the argument with their dad and sending that to their friends, and the friend is like, I'm going to make a scene where it's you and me and we're both, arguing with your dad, whatever it is. Like it's a TV show that you are living and making and watching.
Amazing. And so one of the things that I've been talking about, and you have as well for a long time, is kind of the move from passive receptive, like being receptive receivers of content, right, into being active, like the storytelling to story living or story doing kind of narrative. How do you see this when you look at everything that's happening with AI and large language models, large vision models, everything that's happening? And then you've got spatial computing, really early days, right? It's not something that is taking off necessarily just yet, but I feel like this convergence of these things coming together. What do you see from your vantage point?
I actually am disappointed, because I think the video side has actually just replicated this whole passive reception thing. And I think that's because what's happened is you've had teams that are very well versed in how LLMs were trained, saying, well, couldn't we apply that to video? And that's sort of the big imaginative leap, rather than teams that are that mix of Pixar and gaming and like ML, which I think makes if you have that, makes you think like, wait, why are we just becoming a VFX tool? That's not a good idea. Like, and so there's no change to this medium at all. Like, it's just more stuff to passively consume. Does anyone really want that? since there's so much of it. So I think I think text to video, that whole world has actually just replicated what we already have. And I think it's in danger of becoming a sliver of the VFX pipeline, right? Which is kind of all that it's actually been used for so far. Like there's that great Everything Everywhere All at Once, clip, which had runway as part of it. But it's really just it's not even a piece of the pipeline. It's a piece of the pipeline. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are great stuff, and I love the people that I work with on full AI feature films. I think that's fantastic, but that is replicating the passive genius creator, what received my brilliance. I'm very interested in that because I love movies, but I'm also interested in this two-way stuff, which AI enables. But, just to your question, I don't think AI has taken advantage of that at all. I see it just replicating the genius receiver kind of thing that we've seen before.
Yeah, so I definitely think over the next 18 months to 3 years, it's going to be a really interesting time to see how this all evolves. And I'm
excited. I am excited for the first AI feature film. I mean, there's nothing wrong with replicating how movies work. It's not like I'm not going to see every movie in the cinema that comes out. I mean, I love movies. I'm just intrigued by this kind of holy grail between film and game.
Amazing. So with folks, if anyone wants to kind of connect with you or wants to learn more about Showrunner, where can they find you? Where can they go?
Yeah. So we have open DMs on Fable Simulation on Twitter. And then there's the showrunner.xyz so that they can sign up for the alpha and start making shows.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being on the pod.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So that was our interview with Edward Saatchi from Showrunner. A very in-depth look into how he envisions AI being able to create, people coming together with AI to be able to create TV shows, right? In the interview, he mentions Joan is Awful from Netflix, but kind of done right and done differently. So yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting perspective. I still think we're still going to have flesh and bone actors, and we're still going to have content like that. But there is something there to be said about AI generated content that is personalized to someone or is kind of the story of their lives. So yeah, not sure. I mean, what are you seeing from a content perspective in AI when it comes to TV?
I think people like seeing people. That's what I think. I think as humans, I think podcasts prove it. There's nothing that happens on a podcast that you can't read in an article or that honestly ChatGPT couldn't tell you as news, but people like seeing people. People like hearing people's opinions, even if they might be wrong, right? Like that's part of the whole idea behind speculative content. When it comes to stories, I think people want to hear original thoughts that maybe AI won't ever really be able to come up with, because AI is always kind of learning from itself. Even if it can generate something that might seem original, it's still, I don't know. I'm not excited for it. Where I do see it happening is in like special effects. I think what AI has been able to do to bolster tools like that Adobe makes has been brilliant. Those are the areas where it's like, yes, that level of generative content needs to happen. I'm going to fix this background. I'm going to change this background. All of those type of things that used to take hours and, an army of people. Yeah, those are jobs that are going to become simplified for sure. But full scale content creation, maybe in children's programming, I think would probably make a lot of sense.
We're already getting that, right?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that kids look at in YouTube is like...
Yeah, I think children's programming would probably work because you're basically teaching the same structure stuff over and over again in different formats. But even then, I think that there's something about the human condition that we use media to connect to each other. So what's the interest in the machine doing it?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, I definitely think his approach is a little bit different than what we've seen with Sora and some of the other Luma, which is like everyone's testing Luma right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk. I want to talk about some Apple Vision Pro news. There's rumors, at least Bloomberg is reporting and others are reporting, that they are going to pause, halt, or maybe reduce work on the Apple Vision Pro version 2. And they're going to focus on a cheaper Apple Vision but not a Pro version, something a little bit cheaper, a little bit lower price, a little bit more mass market, not quite there yet. That being said, the Vision Pro team continues to grow. So a lot of people are out there saying Vision Pro is a flop, it's the iPod, blah, 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 blah. It's so early to call it a flop, to be honest. And we don't even know what version 2 or 3 of this is going to be. And they're continuing to hire. So
I think to an extent, some of the criticisms are fair. I do. But it is no more of a flop than the original iPhone. I said this from the get-go when I saw the specs of all of this and how it was being built. Nobody had the first iPhone. Like a handful of people had. I think I know one person who had the first iPhone. Everybody had the iPhone 3G. And the iPhone 3G came out less than a year after the first iPhone. So this really, timeline-wise, stacks up. I thought it was very strange that Apple called their first flagship the Vision Pro. Mm-hmm. It is just the Vision, right? It's all going to focus around hardware that connects to the Vision OS, and really that's the part that makes the most impact. So as I look at this, I'm not at all surprised to hear that they're halting. Now, the way I read it, and maybe I read it wrong, but the way I read it was they're halting continual development of the Vision Pro, meaning that
the Pro, yeah.
Yeah, not the Pro 2. I don't know what they're going to do about a Pro 2. That may or may not be backburnered. Maybe I read it wrong.
I've read different things. Like they're definitely halting or reducing with the Vision Pro, and potential work on Vision Pro 2 would be smaller to focus on a product that maybe doesn't have as many bells and whistles. It is lower cost and a little bit more consumer,
Well, they did some things that proved to not work, like the front eyes panel of the Vision Pro. That's unnecessary heat. That's unnecessary weight. That's just an unnecessary panel. And it doesn't connect. Like, I understand the idea behind it.
Yeah. Eyesight. You mean eyesight. Yeah.
Yeah, eyesight. I'm really shocked they actually followed through with it because it did not make sense in practicality. It made sense on paper.
Made sense on paper, right? The concept of being able to kind of, I can see their eyes, I can connect with them. But yeah, is it something that
No.
As a Vision Pro user, is it something that I think is really important to me? No, not really.
I think they need to move towards a plastic-based solution. I don't know if they'll ever do that. The glass has been a problem. There's been tons of problems with the glass getting marred or even cracking with too much use. And those are super users. I'm not saying that every one of these crack. I'm just saying people who really develop on these things, too much heat has proven to be something or another where you get a crack down the center. That is an issue, though.
That's a big issue. It's an expensive issue if you don't have Apple Care.
It's an expensive issue, right? So, and the price point is just way too high. And they've got to get that stuff lowered just to even get it into people's hands so they can develop on it. Because while there are all of these applications in there, most of them are converted apps that go flat to the AVP as opposed to new original three-dimensional apps. And a big part of that is just the price point of entry to become a developer on it. So I think they're going to call it the Apple Vision Air. That's what I would like to see because
Apple Vision Lite.
Yes.
Apple Vision Air. Send us your names, everyone. Let us know what you think it's going to be called.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have to see.
Something lighter with a built-in battery would be astounding. If they keep the lenses and they keep that pass-through, they're going to have a home run. It'll be great.
Well, I was reading that speculation once again, that it could be something that attaches to your iPhone. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, you're offloading the battery already to, the weight of the battery from the headset into a battery. So I always
thought that was what they were going to do. I thought from the get-go when they started planning this that it was going to tether to your phone and your phone was the computational device. That's what I thought they were going to do. But you see, here's the thing. I don't think it will actually connect to the phone anymore. I think that won't happen because it's a conflict. Like they built a new OS for this thing. So you're talking about the Vision OS. It's a different app store. So just like your phone doesn't connect to your iPad, even though those are sharing technically the same OS, I just don't foresee that happening. But I do think that they've got to figure out the tethering situation. There was an uproar online after WWDC where they showed the phone screen available on the Mac OS, and everyone who had a Vision Pro was screaming, why don't we have that in the Vision Pro? And that's a great question. So there's still plenty of room to grow in the next couple of years.
There's still plenty of room there to grow. All right, so let's go to our last story of today. It's about Discord and radio. I'll let you take this one because you know a little bit more about this one than I do.
Yeah, so Discord is a platform that kind of created its grounds in the gaming space. It filled in the gap where there were multiplayer games that didn't have voice channels. So people would utilize Discord as an instant messenger service that had voice connectivity. So if you were playing a video game on your PC, you could, with other people, you could all join the same Discord server, which is basically a communication server, and talk to each other while you're playing those games. This became really big because of Roblox. Roblox didn't have voice for many, many, many years, up until like maybe a couple of years ago, they didn't have voice. And so a lot of people who played Roblox or even Fortnite would utilize Discord so they could talk to each other. So it's got a big part in gaming. Since COVID, really, it kind of blew up and became the chat device. And maybe it's just more of gamers who were younger coming of age and staying on that platform. But for those who have not used it, it is AOL Instant Messenger on steroids. It does everything. You can stream video, you can chat, you can share files.
You can play games now too.
You can play games on it, and it is its own streaming service. It is as if you put AOL, Skype, and Zoom all together and attached it to the Steam game, provider. That's what you get. Discord's pretty amazing, but it is something that you have to learn, and it by and large came out of the gamer world. So they partnered with TuneIn, which is owned by iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is now which originally was Clear Channel. Clear Channel, back in my day, I came from the radio broadcast world. They went through basically the US and snatched up every radio signal you could imagine. So most terrestrial radio, especially in pop, has become a Clear Channel station. They decided they wanted to get into streaming early, and their streaming solution was called iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio wanted to get into the mobile app, and so their mobile app was now called TuneIn. And TuneIn has now partnered with Discord so that you can get radio or news or anything, sports, all of it within Discord, which means that if I host a Discord server, I could actually create a Discord server and start kind of DJing within my own Discord server and picking music and things like that I want to play. Or I could make an entire Discord server based around news politics, which, oh my God, please don't do that. But it could happen. And you could bounce between ideas that are coming from MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, because they have those streaming solutions. Or here's a better idea, a Discord server focused around Major League Baseball. And now I have access to sports feeds, and I can bring those in and do listening parties or watch parties and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot that can be done now. TuneIn's actually an app that I use pretty regularly. Since I don't have cable, I don't pay for cable, I just pay for internet. I think most people have cut the cord by this point.
Yeah.
It is one of the areas where okay, I can access MSNBC through the TuneIn application and not have to have cable. So there's a lot going for that application, but it does need something to bolster it. It's not adopted by the younger generation. Definitely is not an app that people hear about. So a partnership with Discord will be a pretty good twist for, I think, Clear Channel iHeartRadio.
Yeah, because definitely I think most of the younger generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, especially if they're gamers, they're on Discord.
Mm-hmm. And they're not using TuneIn. TuneIn is definitely...
And they're not using TuneIn.
No, it's definitely not an app that you see younger people.
How would you use it for a podcast? Like the TuneIn Discord integration?
We'd have to see until it happens and we can see the limits on it.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking when you were talking. I was like, how could we use that integration to, let's food for thought.
Yeah, so TuneIn has two tiers. They have a free tier and they had a paid tier, and their free tier is riddled with ads, just like Spotify or anything else. The paid tier does not have those ads. However, if you're utilizing a news channel or news source, you're going to get their commercial breaks. So that's kind of a wash. But music-wise, maybe tech news-wise, I could see it as something that does eventually host podcasts, but time will tell. That's more of a question to see what iHeartRadio's bigger look into these things. And you and I both know, we've talked with iHeartRadio in the past, they have this grand desire to expand into multiple platforms. They do not want to just stay, as their own thing. And I think that's very healthy for them to say, okay, we're a distribution network. How vast can we distribute? That's a good look. That's probably what needs to happen.
Well, and I think it's very smart for them to partner with this.
Oh, yeah.
It's growing. It's growing. It's only going to increase in importance. More kids are using it. So that makes sense. So now we're going to go to Lily's Dispatch from the Fringe. This week, you and I have no idea what it's about. So we're going to be surprised. Okay, take it away, Lily.
Hello, Kathy and Lee. Welcome to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe, coming to you from Science Daily, a report about virtual rats. So we all know that robots are coming, but how can they learn to move with the agility that humans and animals have when we've had thousands of years of evolution to perfect it, where robots have had the past couple dozen years? Well, to understand how the brain controls movement, scientists at Harvard University created a virtual rat with an artificial brain that can move around just like real rodents can. Ben Olvisky, professor in the Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology, led a group of researchers who collaborated with scientists at DeepMind AI Lab from Google to build a biochemically realistic digital model of a rat. So what this means is they trained an artificial neural network based on real rat movements to create the virtual rat's brain. And this virtual brain would then control the virtual body in a physics simulator called Mujoko, where gravity and other forces like on Earth are present. Olvisky said that DeepMind had developed a pipeline to train biomechanical agents to move around complex environments. And they simply didn't have the resources to run simulations like those and to train the neural networks. So these simulations may launch an untapped area of virtual neuroscience in which AI-simulated animals, trained to move like real ones, can provide convenient and transparent models for studying neural circuits, and even how circuits are compromised in disease. So researchers and scientists hope that this will help them understand how real brains generate complex behavior. And eventually, platforms like these could be used to engineer better robotic control systems. And don't we all need that? That is this week's Dispatch from the Fringe.
All right. Always surprising, right? Always surprising.
With the best stories.
Actually, some people love that segment. So I'm glad we have Lily in charge of Dispatch from the Fringe. And I think that's the end of our show. What are you looking forward to in the next couple of weeks, Lee?
Summer, nice weather. I mean, tech-wise, I think we're kind of like we're past WWDC. I think we'll see some stuff come from Google in maybe the next month or so. A few announcements. I'm really interested to see how a lot of the dust settles when it comes to ChatGPT now that all of the partnerships have been announced, and what that means for Microsoft and what that means for Apple. And I do think we're going to hear something about Meta and their AI ventures. They've been quiet for a long time. But that's really maybe still a month or two away. We'll see. I don't know.
Well, Meta Connect is end of September. I think mid-September, end of September. So we'll probably hear a lot by September, but not necessarily in the summer. But
the leaks start early. Meta leaks happen. Yeah.
Well, the leaks start early, right? The leaks. So we'll have to see. I'm really excited to see truly what happens there as well. And it just seems like every week there's so much news happening. But yeah, I do think we probably will go on a summer break in August. So we can, take a little break from this. We will have interviews pre-recorded and content for you to enjoy during August, but we will be taking a little break because we need a vacation as well to enjoy time with the family.
Was planning my vacations in August. So yes, this works well for me.
We are too. Very European of all of us to do this, but all right. Well, thank you, Lee, for joining me.
Thank you. Everyone, have a great rest of your week, and we'll be back with Tech Magic next week.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.